So what I've done is, I'm going to share with you just a second my screen. What I've done is I've created a PowerPoint based on a lot of your questions, and I've kind of just broken them into some categories. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to ask that you hold your questions until I finish the PowerPoint, because it may pop up throughout at some point the answer to your question, but hold on to them and I will do my absolute best to answer those questions. So, all right. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Can everybody see this so far? Okay. All right. If you can see that, can you just give me a thumbs up so I can make sure that we're all seeing the same thing? Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so welcome. This is going to be an overview of basically what going back to school is going to kind of look like. Some procedures that we have in place, some different changes we're going to have to make because of the things we've had to put in place. So you'll have a rationale for why we're having to do certain things. I have asked the ASA reopening team committee members to join me today, and I can see a lot of them are here. And so committee members, at any point, jump in if you have more information that you would like to share or clarification. I would really appreciate that. So, all right. So I'm going to start with some welcoming and some introductions. I am Kristen Briggs. I'm the principal here at ASA. This will be my 11th year in administration. Before this, I was in Hamden at the McGraw School for 6 years. And before that, I was in Dexter as an assistant principal at the Ridgeview Community School. Before that, I was a teacher for a long time. And I taught first grade, I taught second grade, I taught reading recovery. So I enjoyed everything I've done. And I feel very lucky to be doing what I do. And so I just want to keep on keeping on, and I'm loving it. So we created an ASA reopening team, and that consists of different people throughout the school. We had Pat Allen, Lisa Earhart, Megan Dreyer, Maddie Malore, Allison Woodard, and then as we got further along, we're like, we need some more input. So Jess Moore came on, Nick Butler came on, and we enjoyed some support with Meredith Diamond as well when looking at the curriculum pieces. So I just want to say a huge thank you to these team members. We met 6 times over the course. I mean, we were meeting twice a week. And it wasn't just an hour meeting, it was at least 2 hours, sometimes 2.5. And sometimes I would leave to go to another meeting and they would keep on going. And so the hours they put in were countless. And the support and the input they could share with me was great. We also had district level committees that met on a regular basis as well. And I want you to know that we've done all of this work in the spirit of creating the safest and most caring environment for your children. That was every single time we made a decision, that was what it was based on. Is this what's best for our students? Is this what's safest for our students? So how will this presentation be structured? I want to thank everybody. The questions were just rolling in. It was great. It actually made my job pretty easy as far as knowing what you wanted to know. And I think it's great. And I think I was able to capture most of the questions and answers. If you find that I didn't, please reach out and ask, and I will do my best to get the answers. I'm going to do full disclaimer here. I don't have all the answers. I don't. I'm not. And the other part that's hard sometimes is the fact that sometimes the answers change. So what I'm sharing today is what we know as of right now. So we're going to look at the following sort of categories. We're going to look at arrival and dismissal procedures. We're going to look at how lunch and recess are going to look. We're going to look at different ways we've looked at safety in the classroom, how that will be structured. We're going to talk about the hybrid models of instruction at ASA. We're going to talk about the remote models of instruction at ASA. And then there was this catch-all category at the end, miscellaneous, because there were questions I just couldn't seem to fit into anything else. So, all right. So I did have a question yesterday and I was like, oh my gosh, that's probably pretty important to know. But the first day of school is Thursday, August 27th, with a disclaimer that that is for 3rd through 5th graders that are attending the cohort B. So that would be your Thursday, Friday friends will start school. For my K through 2 families that are full in person, the first day of school is Thursday, August 27th. So, all right. So a lot of you have probably received your classroom placement letters, and my hope was that we would have gathered enough of the information to be able to put in the transportation information as well with those letters, but we were not. So we will be reaching out probably near the end of the week to kind of share exactly what the arrival and dismissal will look like for your families. We will probably be emailing you this information. And so make sure that we have your most up-to-date emails if you could, please. But here's a basic overview so you have an idea of what it's going to look like. We have 3 drop-off points at ASA. We have point A, point B, and point C. The time of arrival or drop-off in the morning will determine which point you go to. Okay, so if you are one of the families that responded in the survey and said, look, Mrs. Briggs, we need an earlier drop-off time in the morning between 7:45 and 8:15. That is going to be, the location is going to be at point B, and you'll see a picture in just a second of where that's located. That is for any student that arrives at that time, okay? If they do arrive at that time, we will have 2 different spaces for them to wait. For our students in pre-K through 2nd grade, we will have socially distanced spots in the gymnasium. We will have them marked probably with painter's tape or something along those lines. And students, that's where they'll wait until it's time for them to move to the classrooms, okay? For our students in grades 3 through 5, we're going to have all the schools are getting large tents to be placed outside. We're getting one tent that's a 20 by 20 and another tent that's a 30 by 30. And those tents will be right outside my office here, which, hold on, I'll show you in a second where that is too. They'll be right there. And that's where our grades 3 through 5 students will wait, again, in a socially distanced spot under that tent. Okay. All right, so here's point B, and this is for our friends that would arrive between 7:45 and 8:15. If you look, you'll see this was the old entrance to the school. That's the center of the school right there. There are fences on both sides, so that's like a little hallway is the best way I can describe that. There will be a monitor right there. There will be an adult supervising. So that will be the spot between 7:45 and 8:15. So that's point B. I made some signs yesterday. I'm hoping to make brighter ones for when we start school, but I wanted to be able to show you. So for our students arriving between 8:15 and 8:30, they will go directly to their classrooms, okay? They're still going to go to the drop-off points, but from the drop-off points, that's where they will be going to their classroom. And that will be based on who their homeroom teacher is. So it's basically what we did is we kind of split it down the middle. So we have 10 classrooms at one spot and 9 classrooms at the other spot, okay? So if your child is in Allen, Martin, Maracas, Easler, Kreutz, Robbins, Dill, Soderberg, Talty, or Shaw, you will drop off at point A, and I'll show you a picture of that in just a second. If your child is in Oldenburg, Metcalf, Dreyer, Murphy, Neville, McLaughlin, Dessert, Berglund, or Cavos, oh gosh, sorry, Laura. That will be at drop-off point C, and this is also the drop-off for the buses, and so I'll show you a picture of that in just a second. If you are choosing to park and walk your child up to the entrance, or you're choosing to walk your child to school, we will ask that you go to the point B at the center of the school where I just showed you. That would be where you would take your child and you'd say your goodbyes right there, and then the staff member would get them to their classroom. Okay. We do want to remind everyone that there's quite limited parking due to construction. I'm not sure if you've been around the school lately, but we have large fences, which is kind of absorb some of our parking, both out front and out in the behind the school as well. So just to be aware of that. So here's point A, and this is down by the end where 5th grade classrooms are. And so there will be an adult standing right there. So you'll pull up with your car, your child will get out, and the adult will make sure, we'll have other people staffed as well, but there will be an adult right there and say, okay, you're heading right to your classrooms. So there's point A. And here's point C at the opposite end of the school. This is where the buses drop off. This is down by the 1st grade wing. So that's down at the other end. And so that there again, there will be an adult station there and we'll get them right where they need to be. I can't remember if I said on the next slide, but we will have, so right now you can see that this is where we're going to have some parking. There will be a couple visitor spots in there and I'll talk about that in a second, but this will be blocked off until 8:30. So people can't get in there. So if you're worrying about safety of people driving around in that space, that will be blocked off. So there won't be traffic in there at that time. So why are we doing it this way? Number one, safety. Not only are we trying to limit the number of people in a space at any given time, but construction has really put a wrench, pardon my pun, in everything as well. And by utilizing the different traffic patterns and the areas around ASA, we're able to accomplish a safe arrival. And also in a few minutes, you'll see the safe departure piece as well. Okay. So you're going to have a time that you're going to be dropping your child off, and that will be in the information you get at the end of the week, and at the end of this week. But knowing that, what if I don't arrive during my specified drop-off time? These things happen. I had 2 children who were notorious for forgetting something, and we needed to go home and grab it. You know, little things like their backpack or sometimes their lunch, or as they got older, their laptop. So if you arrive after your specified time, please just refer to the directions in the previous slide. You will get all of this information will come home with your letter as well. So if you're trying to remember it all, don't worry about it. We got this. So for example, if your usual drop-off time is 8, but it's now 8:15, you're going to go to where the homeroom drop-off would be, okay? So if you arrive after 8:30, we are going to have a different sort of way to do this. Because at 8:30, at 8:15, kiddos go into their classrooms. At 8:30 is when our day just starts to begin, and we get things going at 8:30. So at 8:30, what's going to happen is we'll take those cones that have blocked off the traffic and we'll move them. And you will drive in right in this area, right outside my office, and I'll show you a picture in just a second. You will park in a visitor parking spot. You will walk to the door, and an adult will meet you right there at the door or right inside the door and get your kiddo to where they need to be. We're trying to do this to limit the number of adults in and out of our building. We're trying to really lessen that footprint to make sure that everybody is staying as safe as they can. So this is the new entrance. This is absolutely opposite of where the playground is, where the ASA playground is, and there's a sign that says enter. This was taken this morning after that rainstorm. You can see how it's so wet. But you can see that's where you would go if you were going to drop your child off after 8:30. This is also where you would come if you needed to pick your child up for an appointment. The office is just inside that door right there. So you would know that's where you would need to go for that, okay? So the afternoon dismissal process is kind of a reverse of this, a reverse of the drop-off, really. We're utilizing the same points, so you'll still have the same points. But what we're doing is we're dismissing in what's called flights. So each flight time will be specific to your family, okay? So the information that we've been gathering from you over the last few days from that survey that we put out, we're using that to put together times that work best for you all. We are trying to factor into the bus students, the students that will require transportation, We're also factoring in the kiddos in 3rd through 5th grade who have permission to independently walk or ride their buses home. So we're working on that too. So basically what will happen is we would call a flight. So we would say, for instance, flight 1. And so the group of kids, so we would announce flight 1. The students that were specific to that flight would come out and they would stay, we're thinking perhaps under the tent, as long as the weather, we can keep the weather good. We'll have walkie-talkies, adults will be stationed around, and you'll pull up to the spot where you pick up. We would say, you would tell us who your child was, we'd make eye contact, we would walkie-talkie to the adult monitor at the point where your child is, they'd send your child, we'd get the child in the car, and you can go keep right on your way. If you choose to pick up, again, we'll work on you with that too. If you're choosing to walk with your child, again, we'll work with you on that as well, okay? This is really curbside business here, I guess. So the thing that's going to really make this work is coming at your designated time. We have a lot of families that will be picking up. We have a lot of families that will be dropping off. And so the closer you can stay to that time, because we're really trying to make sure that we're shuffling this and making it smooth, is if you can be punctual, it will be super helpful for us. And again, just reiterating about the parking and picking up your child, it will be point B again. That will be the spot where you will always, if you're walking your child, if you're picking up your child and want to walk up and get them, that will be the spot you will always use. And then I just kind of went over again that students in grades 3 through 5 who have parent permission to walk or ride their bikes home independently will be released at 2:45, which is also the time that we're working to try to get the buses to be there and pick up kiddos too. So. All right, so lunches. For now, all lunches will be held in the classrooms. So the RSU 26 lunch staff will deliver hot lunch meals and leave them in totes outside the classroom. And each afternoon, those totes will be picked up and sanitized before the next time. Breakfast will also be delivered the same way each morning. And this is how we're going to start the year. If we are able to access and use the outside tent for lunch, we will be looking at that. We just have to make sure that we're able to keep that distance between students, especially because they will not have their masks on. And the classrooms are all set up now with the 6 feet of distancing around them. And so we can assure that if a child is sitting at their desk eating their lunch, they're able to maintain that distance. But I want you to know that this may not be the way it is the whole year. We are looking at how we can utilize other spaces as well. So students will continue to have recess. They will have recess together as a grade level, except for 1st grade, because 1st grade is one of our larger classes. We've split them, so it's always going to be these 2 classrooms outside together at the same time. And at this time, again, we get new information from the DOE and the CDC often, but at this time, and this is one of the questions that came up a few times from parents, masks will not be required at recess as long as they can maintain that 6 feet of social distance. So what we're doing in order for recess to happen safely and not have to share spaces, we are looking at how we can use and split up the outside spaces around ASA. And if we can do it that way, then we will only have one group of kids on the playground each day. The other thing that we know about this virus is that the sun is not its friend, and it does work really well to help where it's outside. It doesn't live as long, but we're also trying to make sure that we can see if we can have a 24-hour turnover on the playground equipment. Okay. There was a question about who would be watching the kids as well. We will have a recess person or a monitor assigned for each of the grade levels. And the monitor would be the same for the entire year. So they're really going to get to know the kiddos and get to know them, and the kids will know the monitor as well. And I think that will be helpful as well. The only time it would be different would be if the monitor was out for the day, and we are working right now on hiring 2 long-term subs that might be able to serve in that capacity to help out with that. So just so that you're aware that that is something that we're working on. A lot of your questions were around safety in the classroom. And so we use the CDC and the main DOE guidelines, and we've structured classroom spaces utilizing 6 feet of social distance between students. I apologize, I was gonna try to get a picture of somebody's classroom, but I just didn't get to it this morning. But the classrooms are starting to look great. The teachers are really working hard to make it inviting, but yet make it safe as well. And it warms my heart. We've purchased plexiglass shields for teachers to use as added protection during times when maybe 6 feet cannot as easily be maintained. When they're doing smaller reading groups, that might be a time. And so they can use that additional support there for that. A lot of questions around masks. So following those CDC and DOE guidelines, masks are required at all times unless medical documentation has been provided. And then students would be required to use face shields, which extend below the chin and back behind the ears. But also it has to stay on at all times. Originally, we had heard of mask breaks, which no longer is something that they are endorsing. Masks can be removed in the classroom when eating snack and lunch, but again, like I was sharing earlier, they need to stay in that 6 feet of space, independent of anybody else. Okay. So reducing footprints in buildings. We are really working to minimize the number of adults in and out of classrooms and in and out of the building as much as possible. Specials is what we used to call art, music, library, guidance, PE. They're now being called LAMPS, which stands for Library, Art, Music, PE, which I think is a great acronym. And so the LAMP schedule, which means the special schedule, will be maintained for approximately 2-week cycles. So, for instance, your child will have music for 2 weeks, and then the next week they might have PE for 2 weeks. So not only does it limit how many different children the specialist is seeing, it's also limiting the space where they will go. PE will be held outside as much as possible. The other spaces will be sanitized in between classes. So, but it will be the same for 2 weeks. And this allows for a lot of special things to happen. It also limits the number of students in a specific space, but also allows for easier contact tracing, which is something else that we're being asked to make sure that we're able to do. In the past, foreign languages has been also something offered at ASA, which I think is fantastic. This will be held virtually this year, so the teachers will give their instruction, give the instruction from wherever they're located, and they will do instruction virtually through that. So now we're going to switch in a little bit and talk about what hybrid models of instruction will look like. For those of you that went through this spring, you have a sense of what virtual learning sort of looked like in the spring. I think you're going to find a lot more structure now. I know you're going to find a lot more structure in how virtual learning looks. So for students in grades 3 through 5, they will be participating in a hybrid model of instruction, which means 2 of the 5 days will take place in face-to-face interactions in the school with the classroom teacher. And the other 3 days will have instruction delivered synchronously, which means at the same time as the students in the live classroom, as well as asynchronously, which is more of an independent time for them to have things done. So for the very first few weeks, as we're all learning the new technology and we're learning more about our students and we're just working on any of the kinks, we're going to learn how to access the various forms of technology, but every student will start their day with their teacher. So there will be a synchronous component to every classroom in grades 3 through 5 for our hybrid models. It could be a check-in, it could be a read aloud, it could be learning targets, and they're going to be reviewed. There'll be other things that they can work on, but they will be able to start their day in a way that they'll feel inclusive with the classroom. So I think that that will be a great way to start. After the first few weeks of school, we're expecting that we'll be able to add another check-in, perhaps at the end of the day. On Wednesdays, when everyone is in remote learning for grades 3 through 5, you can expect individual, small group, whole group lessons in various core subject areas. We also want you to know that we're aware that it's important to be aware of how much screen time our students are engaged in. There's that fine line between too much and not enough. So there'll be opportunities to work independently on various projects or work, and to know that that's also an important part of their day, just like it is in a physical classroom when they are with us. For our families who've decided to be fully remote in their learning, we give you the following information. So for students in kindergarten through 2nd grade in remote learning, we are currently working on hiring a teacher that will be concentrating on just those students. Allison Woodard, who is on the call with us right now, will also help support that with the literacy piece of it. She's a literacy coach and interventionist, and she will be supporting that teacher and those students. For students in for students in 3rd grade, instruction will be delivered by Mr. Gary Green with curriculum and instructional support from the 3rd grade teachers. Wow, it's been a long day. For the 3rd grade teachers. And so they will work together in tandem with Mr. Green. And for our 4th and 5th grade students, instruction will be delivered by Mrs. Easler. She is a new teacher that we hired to be a 4th grade teacher, but when the numbers came back for the number of students requiring remote instruction, it made sense to have her devoted to those students in that grade. So she is also delivering to the 5th grade students as well. She's working with Mr. Brad Martin, who's a 5th grade teacher and very versed in all things virtual learning. So he will be working closely with Mrs. Easler as well. And the other part is that they're all going to be working together to make sure that curriculum is addressed with continuity across all the classrooms. One of the questions that had come up from some of you is there an opportunity for full remote students to join peers outside perhaps once a week? So this is something we're still discussing, and we don't have an answer for you yet, but I wanted you to know that I heard you, and I appreciate the question. We're encouraging parents to reach out to each other and see if there's a possibility of scheduling times together, perhaps for other remote families, but please know that we're talking about this still. The number of students participating in full remote varies grade level to grade level. For grade levels or spans that have more students, we've made sure to have additional support for our kids. If you're a family utilizing this learning style, make sure that you're sharing your thoughts and communicating with the teachers that are working with your children about what works best for you. I had some families share that they don't want as much face-to-face time, that they want trying to limit more of the screen time. And so, talk to the teacher and let them know that this is important for your family, and we'll certainly work around and see what we can do. So here comes oh, that's not bad, only 30 minutes, that's not too bad. So I'm sorry I keep talking at you, but here comes all the questions that just didn't seem to fit anywhere else. All right, can my child bring a backpack and or a lunchbox? Are there any specifications around the backpack and lunchbox? Yes, your child can certainly bring either item, and no, there are no specifications for what it looks like. Do I need to provide a face mask for my child? While we do recommend it, if you need assistance with this, we will have some available. Especially if things happen, they're going to get soiled, and your little one may not have an extra one with them. But just a reminder that face masks will be required at all times inside the building, except when eating lunch or snack. The other thing with the face masks, and I've heard from a few families that your child likes a specific one, like they like the fit of a specific one. They like the way it's behind their ears. And so your child best. And if they would like to have a specific one, then we do recommend that. But again, we have some here as well. A couple of questions around sports and extracurricular activities. Are they resuming? And I have to share that this has not been decided at this time. I don't know where we are exactly in the process of figuring that out, but not at this time, we have not made that decision. Will teachers be able to teach outside with weather permitting? Yes, this is something that we are all super excited about. One of our ASA teachers attended a multi-day workshop around just this. It's called the Juniper Hill School. And prior to COVID, I had not heard of this, but a lot of their teaching is outdoor teaching. And I don't know if Mrs. Oldenburg is on this call, but feel free, Kim, if you are, to pop in and share more about that. But it's super exciting because as a district, we're learning more and more about it and the power of being outside and learning outside and the various things you can accomplish with that. Will there be kindergarten screening? Yes, there will be kindergarten screening. Typically that happens in the spring before the end of the school year. Obviously, it didn't happen this year. So what we're doing is we're going to be using outside spaces for this to happen. We'll be using some inside the kindergarten classrooms. I know that kindergarten teachers are reaching out to families and seeing if they would like to schedule a spot for Thursday or Friday. Pre-K is not doing a screening. They're going to wait till the school year starts. So just so that you know, okay? It will happen, but just not before school starts. Another question, is kindergarten going half days for the first few weeks of school like they have in the past? They are. They'll be going half days until Friday, September 11th. So their full day schedule will start on Monday, September 14th. The next question was, what about kids coming back to school sick? We're asking everybody's help. Please, if your child is sick, please keep them home. They do need to be fever-free without a fever-reducing medicine for 24 hours before they can come back to school. Our district will be sending home a student handbook, and in that student handbook will be very clear guidelines around these specific things. It will give you more information about home checks and the guidelines for students' return when they are sick. So that will be coming home. It's very comprehensive. It will give you a lot of information. This is a great question too, and a lot of you had this question. What happens if there is a positive COVID-19 case? So the more information is available in the student handbook that you'll be getting, but here's what we are what's the current decision. At a minimum, the school will close for 2 days to allow for cleaning and contact tracing. During the closure, schools will shift to remote learning as soon as feasible. So that you're aware that is what our plan is. So, more questions. What digital platform will you be using? So, students in grades pre-K through grade 2 will be using Seesaw. Students in grades 3 through 5 will be using Google Classroom. Are there still mask breaks? New guidance around this has been shared, and schools are being asked only to take masks off once outside and with 6 feet of social distancing. Obviously for lunch and snack, that would be another time as well. Should my child bring multiple masks? Yes, please, because recommendations are to change the mask if it becomes soiled or wet. And for anyone with a younger child, yes, definitely gonna need some extra ones. I had some questions around ventilation. That is something that's important as far as keeping everybody healthy, and each classroom at ASA does have a ventilation system. Classrooms will also be utilizing the use of open windows to create air exchange as long as we certainly can. Bundle those kiddos up because it's going to be December. We're going to have those windows open still. So had some questions about class sizes. Obviously, it varies between full in person and the cohorts, but pre-K currently has a group of 9 in the morning and 5 or 6 in the afternoon. Kindergarten has 11 in each classroom. First grade has between 11 and 12. Second grade has 13 in each classroom. Third grade is per cohort, they have between 7 and 8. Per cohort. So for a Monday, Tuesday cohort, there will be between 7 and 8 students in the classroom. And the same for Thursday, Friday. Fourth grade has 10 per cohort. Fifth grade has between 8 and 9 per cohort. Had a question around bringing your own school supplies. Many items have been purchased for students to use individually, but we have parents that are choosing to send their child with individual supplies from home, and that's okay as well. But know that we have been we've been very vigilant in purchasing items for kiddos. And then the last question I had that I thought just so nice was a parent asking, how can we as families help you and your staff? It was a great way to end my afternoon yesterday to get that. One of the things that the teachers have shared with me, which is so smart, it's super hard now to tie shoes, zip jackets, things like that. So if you could just be mindful of the clothing that your child wears, if they're not able to tie, perhaps some slip-on shoes or some Velcro shoes, pants that the button they can manage independently, those types of things. Another thing that I didn't put down was also how important it is for like baggies and their food things, if they can open their own containers. These are all would be super, super helpful. And then please continue to show your amazing patience, and please, please, please understand that we have to start somewhere with all of this. This is our initial plan. This is our initial thoughts. Things will change, but we'll work together to do the very best we can for all of our children. We can't do this obviously without you, and we appreciate the feedback that you've given us so far, but know that the reason we do all of this is for your child's safety. So I think that's my last one. It is. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And all right. So I'm ready, Allison. Do we have questions?
Nothing's come into the chat yet.
I'll give you, and you can also, if you want to, you can unmute. That would be fine. Great question. Okay. So for second grade, the class spaces actually do allow for 13 kids to be in the classroom with 6 feet of distancing. That being said, we have had to take things out of the classroom. So there are less large tables. Sadly, there are no comfy couches, those type of things. We're going to get through it. We're going to get through this year, but yeah, there's definitely some overall changes to the spacing and what the classrooms look like. Christina asks, will buses still be making their rounds, and can kids use the bus if they need to, even if they're usually driven in? It's a great question, Christina. So what we're doing right now is buses need to be socially distanced as well. So we have to make sure that there's spacing between the seats. I do know that siblings can sit together. So that is one thing to think about, that siblings can sit together. We need to really dive into the information that you provided to us to see how many kids we have riding the bus. So just being aware, we'll get to you, and I do know that we will make it work, but it might be it might feel a little bit hiccupy for a while. So, but yeah, we are certainly working on that. All right, let me see if I can.
So Kristen, there was a question about no masks at outside recess, but what about when outside in the tents, assuming that social distancing is in place?
Right, so as long as social distancing is in place under the tent, you will not need a mask. Great questions. Okay, more specificity around if a child or staff member has COVID-19 symptoms. Okay, so for instance, if a child suddenly, the teacher calls to the office and says, my little one is not feeling well. He seems to be flushed and maybe doesn't feel great. What they would do is they'd call the office, and the office would send the school nurse or the school nurse helper to go and get that child. We will have, one of the other things that we have been required to have is an isolation space. And so, as you know, we're kind of squished in here. So for the time being, we're going to have an isolation space outside. So we'll have an isolation tent. And what will happen is the child will be with an adult right there in that space, and we will contact parents immediately. So same for staff members. If you're not feeling well, we are truly encouraging staff members to stay home. One of the ways that we can help with that is that's why we hired the additional long-term subs, so that we can utilize those staff members with that. So is that enough, Patrick, or not? feel free to ask more. Yeah, Christina, I know the second grade class, and of course move-ins, you know, it's been tricky, but they do fit. They do fit. They do. I promise they do fit. Are students going to have the same online and in-person teachers for grade 4? So for the hybrid model students, yes, you'll have, so if you are online, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the person that teaches the child on Monday, Tuesday will be the same person they're working with on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The only time that's different at 4th grade is if you are fully remote, and then you would have Mrs. Easler, but you would always have Mrs. Easler. So hopefully that answers that. Which classes or grades will be in the trailers with the construction? So we have one 4th grade classroom out there, Charity Robbins, her space is out there. That works, it works well. It's a space that has ventilation, it has windows. It's all up to par, so. Love to see a hybrid option for 2nd grade too. I know it's tricky. What is the plan for device availability? Great question, Melissa. So the state of Maine, I say donated, though I'm not sure. I believe it was donated 120 Chromebooks to ASA. At 5th grade and 4th grade, they have MacBooks. 4th and 5th grade teachers, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm right on that are one-to-one, thanks Pat, that are one-to-one. And 3rd grade will have Chromebooks. We're still working on the placement of iPads versus Chromebooks at K2. So we're still working on that. They will have something. The one thing that was brought up this morning, which is a great point, is we're wondering what happens if a child tests positive and we suddenly say, look, tomorrow it's going to be a remote day for everyone. How will we get devices in the hands of our kiddos that need them? So we're working on that plan as well. Some of you may not need devices at home, but some of you may need them at home. And so we're working on that to see how best to get those devices to you in the event that it would be a really quick, turnaround, like we got to have devices in their hands now. So that's the plan for that. Yeah, so Christina's question is, what do you anticipate kids to do in the morning if they have to drop off early? It does, and it's my understanding, of course I'm new to this, but I know it's something that is tricky. And I'm thinking I can envision bringing books, bringing coloring books, bringing things that they can, play with independently, but that does seem like, I know it seems like a long time, but that's the reality of what we have to do right now. Could this change? Maybe, it certainly could. So but for now, in the first few months, or the first month anyway, that is what we're going to have to do for that. So I would say, honestly, if you don't have to drop your little one off before 8:15, it might not be a bad idea, because at 8:15, they'll go to the classrooms. More people wanting the hybrid option, 2nd grade. Yeah, and that's a great question, Carissa. So Carissa wondered if it's wise to have the isolation space outside when people needing this suddenly may likely have the chills. Fevers are terrible. I do understand that. It's a great question, and I can certainly talk to our staff about that. The biggest thing is that we need an isolation space, and there's not really a space safely in here right now that we can come up with. So yeah, we'll work more on that, but as of right now, it's going to have to be in that space. Concerned about the size of 2nd grade classes, because the hybrid option was removed because we could safely, our ultimate goal is to have our students here with us. And 2nd grade safely could do that. So that is why that option was removed. Will members of the community be required to see a physician after COVID-19 symptoms before returning to the school? I believe this is one of the recommendations from the CDC. I don't have the answer to that one, Patrick. Is anybody else on the call able to address this?
I don't think that the CDC has that recommendation.
Thank you. And on the other side of the hybrid question, is there a possibility of third grade going to full-time like grades K2? Feels like a much safer option now that third grade has only 2 teachers. Would full-time even be possible? I don't have the answer to that, Erica. I would have to go back and look closely at the numbers and what the spaces can hold. It is, I do need to make sure that you can have enough space for those kids. So I'm not 100% on that. We don't have a lot of friends in third grade that are doing remote learning, but again, there's only 2 classrooms too. So I don't know for sure. Diane says, I don't think the CDC has a recommendation to see every child who is COVID positive. We could overrun the healthcare system. Why can we not open 1 week later so that we know what the situation at the university will be? They only start testing students on the 24th of August. It's a great question, Christina. I'm not sure that I can answer that. I don't know that that is an ASA question, but maybe perhaps you could ask it of the board or of Mrs. Higgins. I'm not sure on that. I don't know if that would put families where they've already made plans for when the school year starts. I'm not really sure. My child has allergies. Some symptoms will mimic COVID symptoms. I've heard this question before, Reagan. Are we expected to call or see the doctor every time a symptom appears? How will nut allergies be handled now that there's no nut-free in the cafeteria? Okay, so the question about the allergies, we are finding that that is something that parents have been concerned about, and it's adults too. Adults have allergies, and so it's going to be tricky to decide, you know, at what point do they need to see the doctor. In that student handbook that you're going to get, there will be very clear expectations around that, and I think it also has to be on a case-by-case basis. I know that's probably not very clear, but you know, it's definitely going to have to be, you know your child, and case-by-case basis. How will nut allergies be handled now that there's no nut table in the cafeteria? So letters went home in your class placement envelopes. If you're in a classroom with a that is a nut-free classroom. So if you have a child in a nut-free classroom, they are not going to be able to have peanut butter or other things that are allergy-inducing, just so that you are aware of that. And if you have a question about any of that, you can talk to Karen. Oh gosh, I can't think of her last name. She's our school nurse. She would have better answers for you. What is it, Allison? Karen Martin, thank you. Gosh, I'm doing so well with names. So you can talk to Karen Martin about that, and she can probably give you more information about that. Can we opt for remote learning first grade in the middle of the semester due to unanticipated reasons? Absolutely. It is much, and it sounds terrible to say, but it's almost much easier for us to move from in-person to remote versus if you decide you're remote wanting to move back in, because that shifts the numbers of students in the classroom. And may tip the scale one way or the other as far as numbers of students in that space. So yes, if you find that you've started the school year and this is just a little too much for your little one, or you know, for any other reason, you can opt to do remote learning. Yes. Is there a COVID case in the middle school or high school? Oh, if there's a COVID case in the middle school or high school, will ACES still close for 2 days? Good question. I don't know. I think part of that contact tracing will play in, especially if it's a child that perhaps has siblings at our school. I think that would make a difference. If they had siblings at our school, it might be more likely that ASA would close. But I can certainly get more information on that. Everything that I have looked at right now has been that if there's a positive case at ASA, we would close for the 2 days. Is there a plan to mitigate traffic getting out of the lot after drop off and pickup? It got pretty backed up during normal times. My husband asked about a crossing guard, and I know you forwarded that on. So I have not been here yet to know, but I have heard that it is very tricky picking up and dropping off. And like, I know, imagining how many more of us will be picking up and dropping off. And that is why we have, number one, that's why we have the separate drop off and pickup time. So we have the different times for that. But that's also why we're doing the 2 separate loops. So we're hoping that might help a little bit. So we'll have some traffic going up Goodrich Road, some traffic going out. Don't tell me, don't tell me. Oh, I can't remember the other road. Allison. Westwood. The other families going out Westwood. We're hoping that that might help some of this traffic. I'm just imagining it's going to be tricky for a while until we get a lot of these things ironed out. So yeah, we definitely need some patience with that. So yeah. When will we receive the handbook? So we're doing finishing touches on it, making sure that it's got the most up-to-date information. I'm assuming that it goes out on the first day of school. I don't think it'll be sent out, and maybe Mrs. Earhart, when do they normally get the student handbooks? Is it the first day of school?
It is usually the first day of school. However, I can understand if parents are like, yeah, if I haven't had a chance to read it beforehand, that might feel stressful.
Definitely. So why don't I work really hard to get it put on the website? One of my goals this year is to keep the website up to date and user-friendly and full of useful information. And so I'm hoping that's my hope, that I can get that up there before school starts. I will work hard to try to do that. So there's just mostly a few extra tweaks that I just wanted to do to it to make it ACES specific. All right. Can an older sibling at the middle school pick up their sibling, an ACES student, and walk home together, or walk to a parent who is nearby in the parking lot? I think so. Mrs. Earhart, you want to weigh in on that? Is that in the past? Has that?
Yep, that's happened.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and my guess would be, Jamie, that if we told Lila where, like at what time and where, to pick him up adjacent to the tent, that would probably be the best scenario, which you'll get home with the whole pickup, drop off flights and waves that we'll be sending home.
Thank you. All right. So Patrick posted reopening planning update recommendations for student management to ensure the health and safety. Thank you for posting that, Patrick, and I certainly will look back at that. Yeah, thank you. Can you send the handbook over email? Great question. I think we can. I don't see why that would be a problem. But like I said, I will try very hard to get that on the website as well. Will my second grader be allowed to walk home with her 5th grade brother? I believe yes on that. Yes, okay, yes.
And I would just say for a 5th grader, and if we email the teacher, we can make sure that 5th grader links up with the 2nd grader. Not a problem at all.
And we usually ask for a note at the beginning of the year saying that that's going to be sort of the acceptable parent plan, just so that we're not just releasing the student to a sibling willy-nilly, that we want to have something in writing that says that that's what the parent is expecting them to do.
Yeah, I would definitely do that. But with all these different pickup and drop-off points, would Jack just go to where the monitor is, or would he be expected to walk around? He certainly shouldn't be walking through the school, right, to go get Kate anywhere.
No, what we'll do, Emily, is we'll put them in the same flight, obviously. Okay. And then we will make sure that Jack knows where under the tent to find.
Go find Kate. Okay, yeah. Thanks.
All right, so Carissa wants to know, what's the plan for snow days? Does instruction automatically go remote, or is school canceled? First of all, Carissa, we're not having any snow days. I've decided that we're just not going to, so we're going to be fine. It's not going to matter. In all honesty, we haven't gone that far ahead yet. Haven't really talked about that. it is an interesting thing. And I know there were some schools, I think they were in the state of Maine, that actually tried this this year. I'm trying to remember, it was down in the southern part of the state, to not do snow days. So they did remote learning on snow days. And so they just didn't have snow days. So I don't know. That's a great question, and certainly something we'll address as we get closer to the snow. How will teachers provide social emotional support, especially for pre-KK, while maintaining safety guidelines? I think this is one of the things that I struggle with, and I know that the pre-KK 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teachers are struggling with as well. That piece of how do you make them feel better, and how do you make sure that they are okay? Lisa is going to be a tremendous asset to all of this. Lisa, do you want to answer more on that? Or I know it's tricky.
Well, I mean, I think we know what sort of kids need for their typical development, and some of that just isn't possible. You know, sharing and taking turns is going to look a whole lot different during COVID than it would typically look. So I think we're still, I don't know, probably every teacher in the building is online and networking and trying to connect with people who have already started school, who have tried some of these things. We're looking into some different apps that we can use for some emotional regulation pieces. And I think the individual support that your student might need is what we're focusing our efforts on in that area to begin with. We don't know how kids are going to come back. They might be like, sweet, school, and oh, the masks are no big deal. And, you know, these grownups who are much more rigid than we are don't really know what they're talking about. And if that's the case, we can layer on programming pretty quickly. If we have kids come back and they're feeling really anxious or really uncertain or just a little unsettled, then I think we'll have to respond to those needs as they come, and then layer programming on after that, because we're going to need to respond to those immediate needs. So there's just a lot of questions about what it will be like for kids, and we don't know the answers to them necessarily, but I can tell you that every teacher feels like connection with students is the number one goal immediately. And once we have that, then we can kind of build on that. And I have no doubt that the staff behind Kristen and I are very capable in helping kids feel safe and comfortable. And we're just here for the kids who need that little extra initially. And then we're just going to build and grow on that.
Thank you, Lisa. If we signed up for an earlier drop-off time, is it possible to change to the later time? Would you need an official note, or is this flexible? If it is like something that you're going to do for the rest of the year, Tracy, if you can just email that to us and let us know that you would rather do the later drop-off time, that would be fantastic, because we're kind of trying to see how many kiddos are we going to have from 7:45 to 8:15 in these spaces that we have set aside. So, so if you think perhaps you don't want to do the earlier drop-off time, just let us know, please. Will Chapter 104 students be leaving classroom to meet with the Chapter 104 teacher during the school day, or is Chapter 104 all remote this year? I don't want to give you wrong information. Can you email me that question, Reagan, and I will look into it more for you? I don't remember where we landed on this one.
I think if I remember correctly, Wendy Pearson was saying she would take them out of the room if there wasn't a reason preventing that they would not be, that they would be leaving the classroom for that.
With snow days, the younger kids would not have their devices at home, correct? You're right, Christina, they would not have their devices at home. Yeah, that is true. But maybe they have a snow day packet. What's the plan if the power goes out or we lose Wi-Fi internet at home? The power never goes out here. Will it be considered an absence? That is a great question. I don't know. I will get more information on that. I will get more information. Okay. For those of you who don't know the school and Lisa, she's a rock star, and I think she will help us through. Aww, she is a rock star. She's helped me through. will all kids? So the question about the technology, they will have something, but they won't go home like every night for K2. They will not go home every night. That's why we're kind of trying to figure out how we're going to do technology for students if we suddenly do have to go to remote learning. So like I said, we're still working on a plan for that. So stay tuned on that. Well, they have to order their meals in advance so the kitchen crew knows what to bring to each room. Hi, Carrie. Yes, I think that we're going to try really hard if you could let the classroom teacher know what days your child will be having hot lunch so they can plan for that. I know they're so wonderful about being flexible with all that, but I know it would help them to know ahead of time how many lunches to prepare, how many breakfasts to prepare. That's another one that they'll probably start to know who's going to have breakfast and kind of have that number. But for the beginning few weeks, it'd be great if you could let us know that your child would like hot lunch. A lot of parents, we are struggling to find childcare on snow days. We might not be able to navigate following remote learning plan. Options are always nice, of course, but I vote to let snow days stay fun days. I know there's something really fun about a snow day, isn't there? Just going outside, and I stay inside because I'm not a huge snow fan. But anyway, thank you, Catherine. Thank you. I'll tell you honestly, having parents behind us is going to make all the difference, and we're going to get through it. Totally going to get through it. All right. So we are at 4:04. My thought was if the children on the call wanted to stay on for a few minutes, then I could answer or talk to them. And if not, that is, if we choose to do remote learning for kindergarten, how many hours would that be a day? Great question, Stephanie. It's going to, we don't have a lot of kindergarten remote learners. So again, it would be with that new teacher that we hire and with Allison Woodard as well. She will do the literacy piece of it. I'm not sure how many hours that would be a day. I do know that all the recommendations that we were reading in the spring about the amount of screen time, you definitely need to make sure that as they're younger, the screen time is less. So in my mind, it would be better to have more, hands-on work for them to do at home, more project-based learning, so to speak. So, and Allison, I don't know if you want to talk about that.
I can talk about the literacy piece of it. So I'll be doing the reading, writing, guided reading, the phonics. My plan is to do some synchronous teaching with that, but then also have some projects, potentially some worksheets, handwriting books, things like that to go along with it. And that can either be done and we can stay on synchronously, or it can be something that I have office hours later on if you have questions about it. So you can get on, sort of do the synchronous part of it, sign off if you're more comfortable that way, and then email me, or I'll have office hours for more questions. And I'm still developing my plan. I'm sort of early in the process. So I'm always open to suggestions as well, but that's sort of where I'm at so far with the literacy piece.
Thank you, Allison. We have a question about the magical new K2 remote teacher. So we're doing interviews, and we're hoping to solidify someone soon. I agree, this is a lot to ask, but they've got Allison, and hopefully the candidate we find will have great background in remote teaching. And also, so there will be, this person will not be alone. And I think that's the most important thing to know, is that this person will not be alone. So we're getting there, guys. We're getting there. Thank you, Lori. And we appreciate all that you're all doing as well. So if there's no more questions, I'm going to turn it over to the kids. Hey, guys. How are you? Hi. Hey, this is your chance. You can ask me a question.
Come on, Ellen. She's on YouTube.
Hi. Guys.
Do you have any questions?
I have a question.
You have a question? Okay. You got to tell me your name first.
Augustine.
Hello. How are you?
Good.
Good. What's your question?
Are you gonna work at the same place as Mr. Ackerman?
You know what? I am. Except, you know what's really cool? I have a different office. I do. I do. That's where I am right now. I'm in my new office.
Oh,
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
you're welcome.
I have a question.
Of course.
I'm Owen Burton, and my question is, how are we going to do in-school music and chorus class?
Oh, and that's an excellent question. So we're going to have to do music a little bit differently. One of the things you'll be doing probably more of is probably more instruments. So, you know, like things that you bang and things like that. I can see just more. I see my music friend here. You want to take it away?
Yes, I'm going to be making individual music kits for each kid. So you each have a bag of your own instruments to use for the whole year. How cool is that?
That's pretty cool, but one question. Do I get to bring my baritone?
Oh, I don't know anything about the baritone, Owen.
Is there going to be any band instruction?
It will be remote, yes. So I'm speaking with Jenna Coaster right now about when that would happen. We're also talking about recorders. Again, what we're getting for information from the CDC is any of that blowing out is not safe. So we're definitely looking at how can kiddos still participate in recorder and band remotely. So instruction would come from, you know, a remote way.
Okay. Do you have a question? Okay.
Nice to meet you, Owen.
My question is that
I forgot your question. That's okay. You want to say hello?
hello. Hello.
Hi, guys.
My name's Luca.
Nice to meet you.
My name's Jada.
Oh, it's very nice to meet you.
We're happy to meet you too, aren't we?
Yeah. My question.
That was your question. Okay.
And Luca, really important piece of information. Your really cool artwork is already in my new office.
That's right. Mrs. Earhart has a different office too. We're very close together though. She's just right over there. So I need her. I know where to find her.
Hello.
Hello.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
Oh, my name is Lolly. And my name's Wilby.
Hello, Lolly and Wilby.
How are we gonna do art without having to a teacher? or who's gonna teach art?
Mrs. James.
Well, we have Mrs. James will be teaching art.
Ooh.
But as I understand it, it's in a different space than it used to be. So I think you had art in a different room. So again, one more change, right guys? We'll make sure you get there.
Not just one more.
Well, that was a lot, but anyway, so say thank you and good luck this year.
Bye. Good
Bye, guys.
luck. Bye-bye. And stuff like that.
Okay.
Don't you want to know what my favorite color is or how many kids I have? No? All right. Well, I'm going to. My favorite color, I love blues and grays. I have 2 children. I have a son named Alex, and he's so grown up. He's leaving for college in the morning, and it makes me sad, but I'm going to be okay because he loves going to college. I have a daughter. Oh, go ahead. I'm ready.
What are we going to do about transportation, like on the buses?
A great question. So if you ride the bus and you are all signed up to ride the bus, you will ride the bus. Otherwise, you will get dropped off by your mom or your dad or somebody special that's supposed to drop you off.
Hey, I guess I was just wondering about the social distancing enforcement on the bus.
Great question. You will need to wear a mask on the bus. That is a great question. So you will have to have a mask on the bus. They will have a certain number of seats between students. So that is also something important as well.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Sophia.
Hi, my name's Sophia.
Hi, Sophia.
My favorite flower is also sunflower.
Really? That's so cool. I have sunflower pictures over here. And you know what? I'll show you this real quick. This is what is on my keyboard of my computer. Isn't that cool? I love sunflowers too, Sophia. Maybe you can draw me one sometime. Well, so my favorite, chocolate or vanilla? What if I said twist? Can I answer that? Twist with chocolate sprinkles.
So I'm Kylan. I'm from up the hill at the high school, but I'm curious for if there is either a fire drill or a lockdown. What will the procedure be then?
That is a great question. So we're still in the process of figuring out what fire drills are going to look like this year because of the social distancing piece. So I will have more information for you very soon, but we don't know about that quite yet. Great question. Mrs. James wanted to know if there was an art question. No, Mrs. James, they were just wondering who was the art teacher. It's me. You should see it. That art room looks so good. She spent a lot of time in there.
What about Mrs. Pearson's room, the fishbowl? It's not that big and there's not enough room for any desks.
Yeah, I bet she's going to do some amazing things in that space.
What about cubbies and like backpacks and like where you're going to store all that stuff?
Great question. So I've been talking with some of my first grade teachers and some of my other teachers, and we're trying to figure out exactly that question because it's going to be hard to fit all of our stuff in there and make sure we take care of it. And so we're still working on that. It's probably going to be a little different for each classroom.
You're gonna.
Who's going to be the librarian?
The librarian is Mrs. Murphy, and I don't know if she's on this call. Give a second. But she used to have children here at ASA, and so now she's a teacher here. Isn't that cool? So she has been working super hard, like everybody has. Oh my goodness, it's really raining out there. She's been working super, super hard, getting that library all spiffed up and ready to go. So it's gonna be super exciting.
Are we gonna wear our masks when we're at recess?
Great question. No, you are not going to wear your masks at recess, but it's gonna be hard because we're gonna have to make sure that we're not right close to somebody. We gotta make sure we've got some space around us. We've gotta have our little bubbles.
Where do you put your masks when you're at recess, or like where do you store them?
Great question. I'm thinking that perhaps maybe your backpack, or maybe you have a special baggie. Like I'll show you. I have a special baggie with all of mine in them, and that's where I keep mine when I'm not wearing them after they've been.
The other thing was, I'm in third grade. My sister's in kindergarten. And we were wondering, like, we both have two different drop-off points, and what if one of us gets stuck in traffic, then the other one, and then we get late for school?
You won't worry about it. You're a little late, that's all right. It's gonna take a while for us to get things figured out, isn't it? It's gonna take a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so has anyone bought any special clothes for the first day of school? I haven't bought I buy a new school dress every year. I've got quite a collection now, but I buy a first day of school dress every year and I haven't bought it yet. So I'm gonna start looking, I guess. Has anyone else bought something special? You can just wait.
I bought sneakers.
Oh, sneakers. What color are they? Oh, Mr. Butler's all excited.
Red.
They're red. Cool. Okay. All right. Anybody have a special lunchbox?
I have a special dress that my neighbor made me, and her little girl has the same dress.
Oh, that's awesome. How special. That is so cool. All right, everyone. We are so excited to see you. It's going to be a great year. It's going to be a funny kind of year, but it's going to be a great year. I am excited to be your principal. I'm excited to start this year. Let's get it going. Are we ready? Because we're ASA amazing. So we are. We're ready. We're ready for this. All right, everyone. Well, you have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you all very, very soon. Bye, guys.